Deserts are vast, silent, and unforgiving. But beneath the endless ramal and burning sun, secrets have been waiting for centuries. Strange objects buried in isolation. Ancient remains where no civilization should have existed. And discoveries that simply don't make sense. In this video, we reveal the top 10 things found in deserts that made absolutely no sense. Mysterious discoveries that left experts shocked and searching for answers. These are real finds, real locations, and real unanswered questions. Welcome to Daily Cam TV.
In 2020, state officials were counting sheep from a helicopter when they spotted something that looked like it fell straight out of a sci-fi movie. Deep in the Red Rock Canyons of Utah's desert, a shimmering 10-foot tall metal monolith was found tucked away into a remote cove. It wasn't ancient, it was polished, triangular, and looked like it belonged in 2001: A Space Odyssey. There were no tracks leading to it, no signs of construction, and for days the world went into a frenzy speculating about its origin. Was it aliens, a secret government project, or just a very dedicated artist? Before the mystery could officially be solved, the structure vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving only a triangular metal plate behind. It was later revealed to be a guerrilla art installation by a group known as the Most Famous Artist, but the sheer effort required to transport and bolt such a heavy object into solid rock in such an inaccessible location still makes very little sense to locals. If you're flying over the Egyptian desert near the Red Sea, you might think you're hallucinating a giant swirling portal to another dimension. Constructed in 1997, Desert Breath is a massive piece of land art consisting of two interlocking spirals, one of vertical cones and one of conical depressions. It spans over 1 million square feet and originally featured a central pool of water that has since evaporated, leaving a shimmering salt crust. What makes this so baffling to travelers is how perfectly preserved it remains in such a harsh environment, where shifting sands usually reclaim everything within months. It wasn't built by ancient civilizations or extraterrestrials, but by 3 Greek artists who moved 280,000 cubic feet of sand to create it. However, seeing such mathematical perfection in the middle of a barren wasteland often stops tourists in their tracks, wondering if they've stumbled upon an ancient landing pad or a modern mystery. There's nothing more nonsensical than seeing a massive fishing trawler sitting in the middle of a scorching desert miles away from a single drop of water. In the Munich desert of Uzbekistan, graveyard-like clusters of rusted ships sit upright in the sand looking like they were dropped from the sky. This was once the Aral Sea, the 4th largest lake in the world, which supported a thriving commercial fishing industry for decades. These ships didn't sink, the water simply retreated away from them so fast that they were stranded where they dropped anchor. Seeing these massive skeletons of the fishing industry baking in 100-degree heat is a haunting reminder of how quickly an ecosystem can turn into a surreal landscape that makes no geographical sense to a first-time observer. In 1998, a pilot flying over the South Australian outback looked down and saw a giant man carved into the earth, and he's over 2 miles long. The Maori man is one of the world's largest geoglyphs etched into a plateau in the middle of the Australian wilderness. It depicts an indigenous hunter with a throwing stick, and it is so large that it can only be fully appreciated from space. The mystery? No one knows who made it or how they kept it secret for so long. The lines are 12 inches deep, and the precision of the proportions is staggering for a work of art that can't be seen from the ground. Even with modern GPS, creating something of this scale in the middle of nowhere without being noticed is a logistical nightmare that remains an unsolved puzzle to this day. Maybe a desert, millions of circular patches of bare earth pockmark the landscape like a massive case of chickenpox on the planet's surface. These are known as fairy circles, and they stretch across thousands of miles of arid grassland, and for decades scientists couldn't explain why these circles, ranging from 7 to 49 feet in diameter, form in such a perfect repeating hexagonal pattern that resembles a honeycomb. They don't overlap, and absolutely nothing grows inside them, even when the surrounding grass is lush. Local folklore suggested that they were the footprints of gods or were caused by underground dragons whose poisonous breath killed the vegetation. Deep in the Atacama Desert of Chile, researchers found a 6-inch long skeleton with an elongated skull and 10 ribs instead of the usual 12. When photos first leaked, the internet was convinced that it was proof of alien life due to its extremely small stature and pointed head. The skeleton, nicknamed Atta, was found wrapped in a cloth in a deserted town and had teeth that were surprisingly well developed for its size. However, DNA analysis conducted years later proved that it was human, but the mystery shifted. How did a human with such extreme genetic mutations survive at all? And why did the bones appear to have the maturity of a 6-year-old? Imagine driving through the most desolate stretch of the Pan American Highway and seeing a massive 36-foot tall hand reaching out of the sand as if it was someone buried alive. This is the Mano del Desierto, a concrete and iron structure that looks like the final desperate gesture of a giant. Located 46 miles from the city of Antofagasta, this sculpture by Mario Irarrázaval is meant to emphasize human vulnerability and the tragedy of injustice. However, for those who, it looks like the remains of a buried titan from a forgotten era of mythology, and its isolation makes it a favorite target for graffiti artists who trek across the dunes to leave their mark on the hand of the desert. Known sand dunes move, but scientists recently discovered that one of the world's most complex dunes has been hiding its age for thousands of years. The Lalalia Star Dune in Morocco is a massive pyramid-shaped structure that towers over the surrounding landscape. Recent research using luminescence dating, which measures when the grains of sand were last exposed to sunlight, found that the base of the dune is 13,000 years old. But then it stopped growing for 8,000 years before rapidly shooting up in the last millennium. It turns out the desert has a much more complex internal clock than we ever realized, and these dunes are actually moving at a rate of 1.6 feet per year across the desert. 90s, if you wanted to reach the most isolated person on Earth, you just had to call a specific number in the middle of the Mojave Desert. The Mojave phone booth was a hand-crank magnetophone installed in the 1960s for miners located 15 miles from the nearest highway. In 1997, a man found the number and started calling it just to see if anyone would answer, eventually creating a website dedicated to the booth. It became a global sensation, turning a mundane piece of technology into a cultural icon. People would travel for days just to sit by the booth in the middle of a wasteland and wait for it to ring, often answering calls from strangers across the globe. People from all over the world, Germany, Australia, New York, would call the booth just to talk to whoever was there, creating a bizarre social network in a place with no electricity or even running water. Last thing that you would expect to find in the middle of a scorching Egyptian Sahara is the skeleton of a whale, but here there are hundreds of them. Wadi al-Hitan, or Whale Valley, contains the highest concentration of Basilosaurus fossils in the world, perfectly preserved in the sandstone. But these aren't your typical whales. These creatures represent one of the most significant stages of evolution because they had hind legs with toes. Finding the remains of massive marine predators in a place that is now a sea of sand with wind-sculpted rock is the ultimate out-of-place discovery. It proves that the Sahara was once a massive, teeming ocean called the Tia Sea. The sight of a 50-foot-long skeleton with tiny little legs resting on desert dunes is a visual contradiction that feels like a glitch in reality, making it the most incredible thing ever found in a desert.
Let us know in the comments which of these clips was your favorite. In the meantime, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.